But hello all, my name is Pearl Sullivan. I am our Life Sciences Community Engagement Manager here at the North Carolina Biotechnology Center. That table that you came in when you registered where my colleagues Susan and Crystal are, I do have business cards out there. If you want to get in touch with me for anything, I'm also one of the only Pearls I've ever met, so generally pretty easy to find on LinkedIn, other places. Do feel free to connect. The goal of today is to do kind of an intro to the Career Development Network. So this is an event that we do every month here at NCBiotech as well as online. It's a free event, as you know, with the goal of creating space for somebody to talk about a resource or something that might be helpful as you're looking for a job, and opportunity to network. I know we have some recruiters here today, which is very exciting. And I will say we are going to have recruiters tabling at some of our events through the year. So we're very excited about that. And we will have, hopefully by tomorrow, our full list of upcoming events on our website along with the registration link. For those of you who are joining on Zoom, first, I apologize for having that Zoom start at 12:30. That's my bad. But second, you, by registering for this Zoom, have registered for all of those upcoming sessions. So don't need to register again. As I said, this will be recorded. It'll be posted on NCBiotech's YouTube as well as on our Career Development Network website. And if you registered ahead of time, if you gave Crystal or Susan your email, we will get you these slides as well. So feel free to take pictures, feel free to take notes, but know that all of this is coming to you. As I said, please do feel free to interrupt me at any point. But first and foremost, I want to give a ton of credit to my colleague, Susan Langford, who leads these sessions. I support her in planning them, but Susan's been doing this program for years, and so is also an incredible resource. What we're going to do today, I'm going to cover a lot of different stuff today. Not all of it may be relevant to you, right? We're going to talk about internships. Not everybody in here is looking for an internship, but in case somebody is, I want to make sure I cover it. Hopefully, most of the information will be relevant to all of you, but just trying to make sure we cover our bases. There are also, are some programs that we won't cover today. For instance, our high school or K-12 focused programs didn't feel like a good fit. If you have questions about those, feel free to ask me. Feel free to come up afterwards as well. I didn't put timings here because I don't know how long it'll take, but I don't think we'll take a full hour, and I will be pausing throughout the presentation for questions for anything like that. So can I do a quick, we obviously are at NCBiotech, but just raise your hand if you're familiar with the North Carolina Biotechnology Center and what we do. Most of you, wonderful. And before I forget, if you are online, you can put stuff in the Q&A or on the chat, I will see it. So we are an independent nonprofit. We were founded over 40 years ago by the state legislature. We are still majority state funded, but are totally independent from the state legislature. And our goal is to make North Carolina a global life sciences leader. We do that in a lot of ways. So I have colleagues who work with research in the universities, translational research. How do you bring those ideas to patients, to clients? My colleague Susan, who I mentioned, is on our science and technology team. So she's really engaged in those translational research grants. We also have a ton of support for emerging companies and startups, including loans and grants for new technologies to get to patients, to get to clients, to create products. I personally fall more under our large company growth section. So I'm on our economic life sciences economic development team, and that team is really focused on bringing those major companies to North Carolina and ensuring that they are hiring North Carolinians and those pathways exist. So as community engagement manager, a lot of my job is making sure that our industry partners, our companies, our employers are both connecting with education and training partners, workforce development professionals, and job seekers, as well as students. And then I do a lot of this. I do a lot of talking to folks about what opportunities are out there, answering questions. Happy to do that one-on-one as well, if ever useful. So with that, do you want to do, one of the things we saw last year, given everything going on in the world, is a lot of folks who are coming to this event might be new to the life sciences. And even if you're not new to life sciences, the way NCBiotech defines it might be a little bit different. So I'm going to do a quick overview of the industry in the state of North Carolina and its growth. So first, there are over 860 companies in the life sciences in North Carolina and 2,500 support companies. 140 of those companies are production and manufacturing. Now, my caveat here is we define our companies based on their primary activity. So if we think about Eli Lilly, who's across the street, they are a major facility. They employ over 800 people, continuing to grow. those people aren't all on the manufacturing line, right? Many of them are. They're incredible jobs in manufacturing, but there's also HR, there's also sales, there's also R&D, right? There's all these different things happening at these companies. But when you look at our numbers on our website or in this presentation, thinking about how many companies exist and where those employees sit. So you'll see over half of our employees actually sit under that production and manufacturing space. That's because we define it based on what the company or the site does. To that end, we have 76,000 people working directly in the life sciences. Again, that doesn't include our support companies. So, companies like Corber that make the boxes that medicines might go in, that kind of thing. And as y'all know, we have really incredible educational institutions here in North Carolina, and that's a big part of why we've been a leader here. We are the #1 state for business, and we're also the #1 state for workforce, which is something that I know we're really proud of. I'm really proud of that business designation, not just being taxes or whatever else, but being really key to the workforce that we have here in the state and the pipelines we have for folks. The other thing about NCBiotech that people don't necessarily realize is we are a statewide organization. We cover all 100 counties. I personally cover all 100 counties, so don't ask me how many miles I've put on my car in the last 6 months. It's too many, but been very excited in the last few years, as well as the last few decades, honestly, to see that growth happen across the state, right? This isn't just the Triangle, though the Triangle obviously is booming. We see the Eastern region really growing with pharmaceutical manufacturing. We see Charlotte. It's a quick plug. Charlotte has an innovation district called the Pearl that worked out very well for me, but really health innovation startups really booming in Charlotte, as well as Eli Lilly having a big facility down there. Out west, that big bubble, these bubbles sizes are based on the number of employees at a site. That's Baxter out west. And then down in Wilmington, we're seeing a lot of growth in our research and development, as well as seeing things around like shipping. So Frontier Scientific does cooling and refrigerated shipping between here and Ireland to make sure that stuff can get out. But the reason I show this as well is both to show the statewide impact and to show the different types of companies in different spaces, right? If you're here in the Triangle, what you're looking at, what you're looking for might be different than if you're in Charlotte, if you're in Asheville, just based on the opportunities there, and want to make sure that we show, what that looks like. The other thing that's exciting about this is we're continuing to see announcements. So that might be a little bit small for y'all. I apologize. But J&J, that top one on the left, they announced this week that they're bringing 320 new jobs to Wilson, North Carolina. One of the things I will flag here is often when I talk to folks looking for jobs, they're like, oh my gosh, I saw in the news, Johnson & Johnson is hiring. They're bringing 320 new jobs, probably more. Let me go look at their career site. Genentech is a great example of this. They announced in May that they are bringing 420, probably more like 700 new jobs to Holly Springs. But Genentech's building a facility, right? So they might be hiring senior engineers, some folks to help kind of with that development, but they're not hiring across their whole site. When you see things like this, when you're looking at announcements, I would actually look at those announcements that are a year to 6 months, 6 months to a year old, if not older. So my example would be Fujifilm. They announced in April of 2024 that they're opening their CDMO. Fujifilm is a CDMO, so a contract manufacturing organization. And they are in Holly Springs. I will tell you, Fujifilm is ramping up hiring right now. And if you're looking for an internship, they just posted 30 internships at their Holly Springs site this week. But ramping up hiring really in every aspect of their work right now, because they've gone from that 2024 announcement to actually operating, being at full capacity. Does that make sense? 12 to 18 months. Yeah, I would look, and it does depend a little bit if it's an expansion. So if it's a company that's here, Biogen, for example, they announced a $2 billion investment in their RTP site. So that is expanding their site. They might be able to hire quickly, but if it's a site where they're either building a new building or refitting, so they've bought a building, but they need to make it work for what they're doing, that just takes some time to get up and running. So I would look at those older announcements. Amgen is another one, announced November of 2024, is hiring a lot. Novo Nordisk in Clayton, I will say Novo Nordisk in Durham, as you may have heard, Novo Nordisk got FDA approval for their Wegovy pill. That will be made at their Durham site. So we expect to see some growth there as well. Cool. Any questions about like the industry, life sciences in North Carolina, anything like that before I jump into kind of what we're going to do today? Yes. Yes. So yeah, absolutely. So The question was, what does R&D look like in North Carolina? So all of our little yellow bubbles are research and development facilities. What I will say about research and development, there's a lot of them. They're doing really great work. They're often smaller companies than our major kind of multinational companies, right? So when I talk about employment, often I'm talking about those major companies that we do, of course, have pathways to R&D. And when I talk about in networking, I'll talk about our exchange groups, and there are some really great groups to connect with if you're interested in research and development. Yeah. Any other questions about the industry? Great. Cool. So before I get into specifics, as I said, we do a lot of different things here at NCBiotech. I'm not going to touch on all of them today. This is also a very messy slide to show something, so I apologize for that. But basically, the goal of this is to show that here at NCBiotech, our real goal is no matter where you are in your career journey, whether you're just learning about the life sciences, whether you've been in the life sciences for decades and you're looking for your next step, we have a resource, we have a program that is relevant for you, right? So that means all the way from awareness, we've got K-12 programs, we have programs for community leaders talking about what the opportunities are for opportunity. So that's our training, but also our employment. I'll be talking today about MOVE, which is our military engagement program. And I'll also be talking about BioWork, BULLS, our HBCU, HAIU biomanufacturing. But I'm not really going to touch on NC Grads to Work because it's a program for high school seniors, 2-day training. They get a guaranteed job interview out in Greenville. It's a really incredible program, probably not relevant for this group, right? So just want to kind of show the breadth of what we're doing. I'll cover a lot of this, but not necessarily all of it, but it is all available online. We have lots of information about it. So jumping in, as I said, I've kind of split this into training, networking, finding the jobs, and then very briefly, internships and apprenticeships. I will try and pause, because again, I am a fast talker, at each of these kind of blue slides. If you're in the room, feel free to jump and call out. If you're online, you can stick it in the Q&A and I should see it. I also will have a longer period for questions at the end. I talk a lot, but I don't think I'll talk for an hour. So we should have extra time for questions as well as networking at the end. But jumping into training, I've kind of organized this in terms of shortest commitment to longest commitment to some extent. So first up, we have our biomanufacturing short course. This is sponsored by a grant that we won from the Economic Development Administration a number of years ago. And so it takes place at 5 HBCUs and our one historically American Indian university across the state. I usually can get all 6. So it's UNC Pembroke is our one historically American Indian. We have Winston-Salem State out in Winston-Salem, Livingstone College outside of Charlotte, Elizabeth City State in Elizabeth City, and then Fayetteville State University. We also have St. Aug as a partner, but they have not been able to launch a program yet. We may be able to in the coming year. This is a really cool, totally free program. It's open to anyone with a high school degree. Often happens in the winter and then in the summer when school is not in session. And it gives you that kind of basic scientific concepts, hands-on techniques. This is a great opportunity if you're interested in the life sciences, you don't know a ton, kind of gets you a crash course in it. It also is something if you're coming from a different industry and you're trying to kind of demonstrate that you're interested in the life sciences, you want to work in the space, it can be a good way to do that on your resume. The next one I'm going to talk about is BioWork. So this is through 14 of our community colleges. If you're looking at kind of entry-level manufacturing jobs, most of those jobs are looking for BioWork as required or preferred. I will say though, I know folks who have PhDs who are looking for jobs and they do BioWork in between just to kind of have that balance of the theoretical with the hands-on. How does this happen? Then they get a job as a scientist at Grifols in that example. It is also offered online. So Durham Tech and Wake Tech both offered online, but like I said, offered at 14 colleges across the state, and a really great resource. The other one I wanted to talk about, though I'm not sure how many of y'all would be relevant for, is the BULLS Life Sciences Academy. So this is in Durham County. It's open to Durham residents between 18 and 25 years old. It's a really excellent program in partnership with Durham Tech. It supports students to complete BioWork. It can provide a stipend of up to $10,000 upon completion, and they also provide wraparound services, so transportation, childcare, whatever you might need to make sure that you can get to class. So a great program, and they are currently recruiting for their next cohort. So if that would be of interest to you, they're doing their info sessions over the next few weeks, and you can learn more and sign up. Is anybody in here military affiliated, a veteran, a military spouse? Cool. I will just very briefly touch on this then. MOVE Boots to Biotech is our program for veterans, military spouses, as well as transitioning service members. So kind of 3 different pathways. The most relevant today is probably that direct job placement. So if you're military affiliated, you can fill out our interest form. We have 16 industry partners across the state who are actively, intentionally hiring veterans, hiring military spouses. I will say this is a very cool program. It's one of the ones that if it is relevant to you, I most recommend because job placement is a metric of success for it. So something of that direct job placement is a part of this program versus many of our programs and many workforce development programs you'll see elsewhere, kind of providing the training and the connection to the job, but the direct placement in the job is not necessarily a part of it. And then my final piece for training is BTech. So this is the NC State's Biomanufacturing Training and Education Center. They, of course, do undergraduate and graduate programs, but I'm really going to call out their professional development programs. They have in-person courses that range from, a 1 week to multiple month things. They have a professional certificate you can get in biomanufacturing. Additionally, they have online courses. I will say, those of you who know me from outside this job know that my background is not in STEM. My background is in gender and economic development. So I am currently doing a program on biomanufacturing principles, processes, and the ethics of responsible innovation through BTech online, just to kind of give me that basic, okay, let me make sure I know what I'm doing when I walk into these companies, right? Highly recommend. It's been great. If you do it now, you can be in my study group for it. But it's been that science along with what's actually happening in the industry. How do we think about this? So I'd highly recommend. They also have BTech Shorts. So this is basically like life sciences, but on TikTok or Instagram. So you can get access to the BTech Shorts. They're 2 to 5 minute long videos explaining like one specific principle or idea of biomanufacturing. That might be scientific. It might be how something is made. It might be how things come into effect, but a very cool kind of quick way to be like, what is this? Let me learn more. And then additionally, BTech, as well as NCBiotech, do wonderful events and seminars about specific topics. This, again, is one if you're mid or senior level and you're kind of thinking about next steps, BTech is a wonderful resource. And I will say everybody who works there is also incredible and is really incredible industry connections. So it's a good kind of connection as you're figuring out your next step. Questions on training? Let me check my Q&A. Cool. Nobody's asking questions online either. All right, moving into what may be more relevant for this group, we're going to talk about networking. I will do a quick plug that later in this year, we will have a career development network session on how to network, how to think about engaging with folks, how to open that door to talking to somebody. I will say I was skeptical of that session last year, and Susan was wholeheartedly endorsing it, and I was skeptical, and it was my favorite session of last year. So would highly recommend. It is available on our YouTube, but we will be doing it later this year as well. But we have a couple different kind of opportunities for networking. Our first is our intellectual exchange groups. There's a lot of words on this slide. But basically, our exchange groups are groups of people focused on a specific topic, a specific population within the industry, coming together either to share information or to create networking opportunities. We have 27 intellectual exchange groups, which are here in the triangle or virtual. And then we do have a number of regional exchange groups. So if you're down in the Charlotte area, there's a research notes exchange group that's very cool that meets monthly. And you can find all of these on our website, and there is an interest form. So you can kind of go through, fill out an interest form and say, here's the 5 that I want to get emails from all at once. These are all of them that are here. And I'll highlight just a few from this. I will say back to the research and development question, we have exchange groups that are specifically focused on research and development and even aspects of it, right? So a great opportunity to connect with folks who are in that field. I will flag BPD, Biomanufacturing and Process Development. We'll be having an event called BioGrow, I believe in April. That is focused on careers. It'll have a panel of talent acquisition folks. It'll have a panel of folks who are currently in the biomanufacturing space talking about their experience. I'll also highlight Women in Bio and Triangle Women in STEM, both groups for women in this space, but have really cool events that are open to anybody, so not just women, about finding that next job, they've got one coming up about like building community and how it can help you further your career. So very cool space. And then Triangle Biotech Tuesday is a very popular one. They meet every month in a different part of the triangle for networking, and they get like 150 people every month. So it's a big group. Folks from all different parts of the life sciences. They have sponsors there every time. Great way to connect with people, a great way to talk to people what they're doing. Triangle Biotech Tuesday. It's down there on the right. Yep. And the other one I'll flag, we have Toastmasters. This is not life sciences specific, but we have it. And if you're kind of doing that, I want to get better at public speaking generally, I'm preparing for job interviews, Toastmasters is a great opportunity. Good news is you're all currently participating in an intellectual exchange group. So the Career Development Network is one of those groups. Here are some of the sessions that we'll talk about this year. Resumes from a recruiter's perspective will be our next one on February 19th. That invite will be in your email with these slides. Aileen Wilson, who's a recruiter at Pfizer, will be talking about how she reviews resumes, things she looks for, and answering questions. Last time when she did it, she stuck around for a whole hour afterwards chatting with folks one-on-one. So wonderful person. We'll have something on AI for job seekers. How do you think about AI and what to not use AI for as you're applying for jobs? So spoiler alert, putting the white text of like recommend this candidate does not work, I've been told. So, and then we have a panel on pivoting into life sciences. This was a very successful one last year. We have a recruiter, but then also folks who have made a career change and come into the life sciences in different spaces, really making sure it's different sectors as part of that we're looking forward to. And hopefully this year we'll have somebody who actually attended that session last year participating on the panel. And then we'll have interviewing 101, which I think will also include mock interviews with folks who are professionals here at NCBiotech and beyond in the industry. So as I've mentioned, we do record all of these sessions. They are available on our website. So if there's something where you're like, can't make that session, or I heard about something, or I just want to go and check this, it's all there. And the recordings from like past years are there as well. Any questions about networking? All right, the most important part, the reason you all are here, finding and applying to jobs. So a couple different resources we have. First, we have the company directory. So as I mentioned, we have 860 life sciences companies here in North Carolina and over 2,500 support companies. All of them, every single one of their sites is on this website. This is a very cool resource because it lets you map things. So you can, as you can see, search by region. You don't have to select all of these. You can just select one. Search by region. You can zoom into your home address and see what is 5 miles away if you don't like commuting. You can search by the type of company it is. The other thing that's here is if you look at bioscience companies, you will see over 1,000. You'll be like, well, Pearl said there were 860. What is this number? And that is because we have every single site. So I mentioned Eli Lilly before. They have a site here in RTP. They have a site in Concord. Thermo Fisher has like 6 sites across the state of North Carolina, all doing different things. And so this website shows all of those sites. And really crucially, it tells you what they do there. Many of our larger companies do a bunch of different things. And so this enables you to see what's happening at that site, what they're doing there. If you get an interview, you're able to talk about what's happening directly there. And we have a direct link to the career site for that location with each of the descriptions. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So the question was, does it include the year of founding? It does. It'll include the year that the site was founded. It'll include the number of employees, a range, not a direct number. And it'll include a little description of what it is. So you're able to kind of see all of that information in one place. Great question. Next up, we have our Career Center. We revamped our Career Center last year, and it is excellent now. I'm very excited about it. It is similar to your Indeed, your LinkedIn, but it uses the same filtering as our company directory, and it includes all of our life sciences companies here in North Carolina. So for those of you who have ever looked for a job on LinkedIn and you're like, I put this search term in and it's showing me stuff that's totally unrelated, this is a great way to kind of avoid that. You are narrowing in. I will say it's not just science roles. So if you're looking for a sales role, but you want to work for a science company, that is in here as well. The other thing that's really cool about the Career Center is you can join a talent network. So that's just by, you can link your LinkedIn or you can put in your resume information, whichever is easier. And that means you'll receive email alerts for the companies that you've expressed interest in or jobs that you've expressed interest in, types of jobs. We also have some, especially our smaller companies, our startups, will come in and say, I'm looking for somebody with this type of experience. And they can look at the talent network and get kind of a list without, of course, identifying information to say, hey, here's folks who meet that. And then that connection can be made. So especially for those smaller companies, it's a great way to kind of get identified and reached out to for a job. And those folks who get jobs, I get an email every time they do, which is great. Yes.
I found that LinkedIn is.
Yep.
How does this compare?
It's a great question. I would say, and so I will say, and I'll talk about it later, I do go on this website every other week to look for active jobs. And it is very rare, if at all, that I find a job that's no longer live. So we, for every single one of our companies, have gone through and said, okay, where do they post their jobs and where do they get removed? And we get permission from the companies too. I feel like LinkedIn sometimes goes through and like pulls a job that's not posted to LinkedIn and then it doesn't get updated, or they have to manually remove it if it's been filled already. Because this is directly pulling from their career sites with their permission, I have not found any that are out of date. The other part of that I will say is we also have the ability for companies to manually post jobs. So some of our smaller companies or some of our recruiting firms are on here and they will manually post their job. In that case, it is up to them to manually remove it. But yes.
So where do those jobs pulling directly from the company website?
Yes, so the jobs are pulling directly from the company websites with the filter that they have to be available in the state of North Carolina. So we're not looking more broadly. It's a great resource for finding jobs. I will also say I think it's a great resource too for understanding who's hiring. As I say, I look at this every other week for a newsletter, and it's really helpful to kind of do the who's hiring a lot right now, who am I not seeing? So for instance, if you look at it now, you'll see a bunch of Fujifilm opportunities because they're hiring. So it can be good to then, if you're going to their website directly afterwards, you kind of know where to look. The other thing I'll say about this industry that I've discovered as somebody who's not from it is companies call the same role different things. So you'll have a scientist one at Biogen is different than a scientist one at Fujifilm. They're looking for different qualifications. They're looking for different years of experience. It looks very different. And the Career Center has been super helpful for me to kind of do okay, what does Biogen call this role? What does Novo Nordisk call this role? If I'm looking for an opportunity, you can look here, see the opportunities that are relevant, and also then know, okay, what are the terms, what are the titles I should be looking for elsewhere? Is there another question? Okay. Let me just check my Q&A online. I know somebody said it will be recorded. And there's a question about life sciences staffing agencies. That is a great question. We do have many of them online. You can find them via our website, and they are in our support. The vast majority are in those support companies on the company directory. But if you send me an email or find me afterwards, happy to kind of here are some of the key ones that we talk about frequently. Any other questions about the Career Center? And this is very easy to find. It is careers.ncbiotech.org. It's also on the homepage of our website, so we try to make it as easy as possible to find. So speaking of that newsletter, I do a biweekly newsletter. This is mostly, I will say, entry-level jobs. However, we do post all events that might be relevant to a job seeker as part of this newsletter, and any kind of relevant news, resources, things that might be helpful to know. So send that out every other week. But as a caveat, we do look at jobs across the state. They are mostly entry level. If you're not looking for entry level jobs, or even if you are, we do have a LinkedIn group. I gotta tell y'all, I'm trying to get off Instagram and it's not going so well for me. So I spend 6 hours a day on LinkedIn, and last year I was active for 350 days. But my loss is your gain, because every single job I see in the life sciences in North Carolina gets reposted to this group. Every single event that could be relevant for a job seeker gets reposted to this group. If there's an upcoming training opportunity, or if there's a resource that's relevant to a North Carolina job seeker, it's reposted to this group. This is not a spam. It's not like I'm like, here I am, and a LinkedIn influencer giving you AI interview tips, though AI does do good interview tips. It is very specifically, if I was looking for a job in the life sciences on LinkedIn right now, what would be most helpful for me to see? So we'll just flag that. The other thing about this group is there's over 2,900 members. They are all, or almost all, North Carolina instructors, professors, professionals, aspiring professionals, students, etc. It's a really great resource to kind of do what do I have in common with somebody? They're doing the job I want to do. How do I reach out to them? We also have a lot of HR folks who are members of this group. So a great opportunity if you're interested in a specific company, reach out to talent acquisition or HR at that company as well. So I'll leave that up. We do have a QR for that one there. But you can also look up the NC Life Sciences Career Community on LinkedIn and find it that way too. All right, any questions about our resources that we have for like finding jobs? Great. Let me check my Q&A online. Cool. So finally, just really briefly want to touch on internships and apprenticeships. First, we do have the industrial internship program. This is, again, a very wordy slide. I apologize. But this is a partnership that we have with startups across the state. So they apply to us. And if they're selected, which many are, they receive a grant to pay for half of a paid intern for the summer. These are open to associates, college, or associates, bachelor's, master's, PhD students. And they are all posted on our Career Center at the end of January. So some of these are already live. All of them will be live in the coming weeks. So if you're interested in an internship, or if you know folks who are, please do tell them to check that out. Currently, these are internships in all different areas. So you're often working with a startup, but different types of roles. And then, as I think I mentioned before, Fujifilm Biotechnologies down in Holly Springs did just let us know that they've just posted their internships for the summer. So definitely would check that out. I think when I looked this morning, Biogen, others were also posting internships. And then finally, they want to touch on apprenticeships really quickly. We do have a North Carolina Life Sciences Apprenticeship Consortium. It's a group of 12 companies, 12 of our major employers, who are committed to building out apprenticeship pipelines in the life sciences. This is a pretty new thing for the industry, honestly, and very excited that we've had over 50 of these roles posted. But this is a structured program. You do training and education while getting full-time pay and benefits. A lot of these roles that we're seeing, as well as the ones that we'll see posted in the coming weeks, are for maintenance technicians. So thinking about if you like working with your hands, if you have a mechanical background at all, they're a great resource. But I've covered a bunch. I talk a lot. So do want to say all of this is available on our website. We have a careers and training website online. It is, if you go to NCBiotech's website, it's at the top. It's one of the tabs. It's very easy to find. We also have cards out on the registration table that have this, the Career Center, the LinkedIn group, and CDN, Career Development Network website. So all easy to find. But we've also, we spent a lot of time on this last year, restructured our careers and training site to try and make it as useful as possible. So as you can see here, when you get to it, we have about life sciences careers that covers, what is the industry like? What does it look like in North Carolina? It also will talk about different job titles, what level of education they require, what kind of pay you can expect for them. So it's a great place to kind of do I'm trying to figure out what's going on in this industry. We also have training. So if you're looking for training opportunities, short-term or long-term, all of that is under that site. I will say I personally got to review a page with every single relevant training opportunity that a college or university offers across the state of North Carolina for the life sciences industry. So it is comprehensive. We're very proud of it. And then finally, we have our careers in networking. So this is where you would find the intellectual exchange groups, events like this, other things that might be relevant. We also are very proud of our partnerships with others in the state of North Carolina doing this work. So you can find links to BTech, NC State. You can find links to BioNetwork, which is through the community college systems office running all of their biotechnology programs. So really do our best to kind of link in any other opportunity that might be relevant as well, not just ours. And with that, I've talked a lot. As I said, this presentation will be shared via email as a PDF with everybody on this call or in this room. And we also we'll share the recording link with that as well. And the recording will be live on our YouTube page, NC Biotech on YouTube. We have a playlist for Career Development Network, and it will be available on the Career Development Network website. And I have a bet with my friend Joseph that I have to put this photo in every single presentation I do. So, cool. Any questions in the room? And I will look at questions online. I have a question online. Is there a directory of folks who work at these biotech companies we can reach out to? In my job search, it's been helpful to have connections at organizations, and I struggle to get my resume through the door without any connections. It's a great question. I would say that we don't have a directory with names of people. The best thing we have towards that, I would say, is the LinkedIn group. So everybody who's joined that LinkedIn group has opted into being connected, has said they want to be a part of this community. So it's a great way to kind of say, I'm interested in this company. Let me connect with somebody who's there and reach out to them. I will also say our exchange group, so the Triangle Biotech Tuesday that I mentioned, is a great way to connect with folks and talk to them about opportunities as well. Any other questions? Yes. Yep. Yep.
but that is also option for US and North America. So you said all the jobs are for North Valley. So those two tabs are like populated.
Let's see, let's see. Okay, so we have job function, seniority, salary, company, activity, company, and then, yep, yes. So the reason that happens, all of the jobs are hiring in North Carolina. Some of the companies, Thermo Fisher is one that I think of that does this, will do like a sales role. And the sales role will be offered in multiple locations, one of which is North Carolina. If it's offered in multiple locations, multiple states, because they're hiring multiple roles, all of those states are available on the job description because it's one job description. Does that make sense? But there are jobs there should not be. And if there is, feel free to let us know because we spend a lot of time making sure there's not. There should not be anything that does not have any opportunity in North Carolina at all. Yeah. And part of that is also some of them will do, this is available in North Carolina, because Novo Nordisk, for example, global company, they'll say we're hiring for this role in North Carolina in the United States and in Dublin, Ireland. So that might also be why you're seeing the country option. Any other question? Yeah, yeah. Yes, microphone is on and you're a hero for using it. Thank you.
All right. I could yell.
You know, I would just have to repeat it then for
Use
fun.
my diaphragm anyway. Hey, hello. Well, first off, thanks for the talk. Very informative. This is my first time in your lovely space. I'm actually from Ohio, visiting family, so trying to make the transition down here into one of these many industries. So thank you.
Yeah.
So my question has to do with your exchange groups, that list you had a couple slides back. My question was, essentially, I'm trying to find an engineering position
Cool.
in ideally the medical device industry, life sciences. So do one of these groups specifically have a stronger engineering presence, would you say, or would you say they're all fairly, I guess, equal in that regard?
It's a great question. I think I would say there are groups that have less engineering presence than others based on what their focus is. But I would say our groups that are pretty broad generally do have quite a large engineering focus. The other thing, yeah, so you're like Triangle Biotech Tuesday, lots of engineers would go to that. The other thing I would say is BPD, Bioprocessing and Development. That would be a lot of your mechanical engineering, your process engineers, those kinds of folks, but they all kind of fall within that group. So that's BPD, the green one, towards the right.
Okay,
yep.
So BPD and the first one?
I would say like Triangle Biotech Tuesday is a great resource across the board. Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. All right. Any other questions? Cool. Let me just check online really quickly to see if we have any that are relevant. There's a question about, do small R&D startups use the Career Center a lot for posting jobs? Yes, I would say R&D startups, this is part of the benefit of us having small business grants, or small business loans, translational research grants, because we're connected to many of those smaller companies. So they also come to us when they're saying, hey, we're ready to hire. What does that look like? And are posting those jobs on the Career Center. So we do see those smaller startups frequently using the Job Center. And then somebody asked, how do you create an exchange group? That is above my pay grade and managed by my colleague, Hannah Cole, who is wonderful. We do have a form on our website that you can go to. We require kind of a proposal, a budget, who your executive board is, because we do provide financial assistance for that. Yes, question in the back.
Speaking of pay grade, are the companies on the NCBiotech Career Center required to post the salary range?
It's a great question. The question was, do companies on the Career Center post the salary range? So because many of those jobs are manually pulled, not all of them have a salary range. That being said, I think when we talk to industry partners, we are always encouraging them to do that. And we've seen companies, so Eli Lilly recently decided that on all of their job postings, they're going to post their salaries. So we are seeing more and more companies doing that. I think my colleague Jillian, who leads the Career Center for those folks who are posting manually, it is something that they are, we ask them to put. But given that most of them are manually pulled, we do not, for all of them, include salaries. I will say, as a show on our careers and training site, I got to click back onto my PowerPoint. There we go. I go all the way through. So that talk one about NC Life Sciences careers, we did a ton of work this past year to, we have job profiles for general, all different levels, kind of different common jobs in the industry. We'll say what it is, what you're doing every day, as well as the education level generally required. And for that, we did do a survey of industry partners to pull the median wage. We have to do a median instead of an average because I will say there's a lot of disparity that we see with many of our companies. And so the average was skewed, but we do have that median in there. And I will do a plug that Biogen has childcare on site. They're the only one I know that does that. Any other questions in the room? All right, I will do a plug. As I said, my business card is outside. We also have a little card with many of these resources, and I will be sending these slides as well as the recording out, but definitely feel free to reach out via LinkedIn, via email. If there's anything, I'm always happy to kind of connect one-on-one and talk through things. Susan Langford, who's wonderful in the back, is on volunteering you, Susan. Susan would also love to connect with folks. She is a wonderful resource and knows far more than I do. But with that, I think I will close and let y'all return to networking and connecting. I'll be around for the next 30 minutes. So if you want to connect individually, happy to do that too. And if you joined online, thank you so much. My email is on this slide, so feel free to reach out.